And joining me as ever is Judy Beck from Clonroad Garden Centre. Judy, good morning to you.
Good morning. Lovely to see a bit of sunshine outside today.
It is. And particularly for our gardeners, they've been chomping at the bit to get back out there into the garden, and the conditions are finally playing ball in that regard. Any questions for Judy? Get them in, as I say, 086 1800 964 if you want to tap into her extensive knowledge and expertise. But before we get to that, you're going to take us through this week's topic, which is on a vegetable that I am quite fond of. In fact, stories are told of me as a young 2-year-old tucking into a massive bowl of this substance, this vegetable. It is cabbage.
Wow, that's great.
I love cabbage. Really sweeter the better. It is.
Yeah, I love cabbage too. And of course, we have lots of different ways. We don't just boil it to mush anymore. We do lots of different things with it. And it is probably the most popular vegetable it is the most popular vegetable we sell in the garden centre.
Why is that? I mean, aside from the fact we just stated, clearly both of us love it. But why is it the most popular? Are there other reasons behind that other than it being delicious?
I think, that bacon and cabbage is still a really popular dish. And I think a lot of people still eat cabbage almost every single day. So,
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, absolutely nothing wrong with that. And there's two ways of growing it, of course. You can either grow it from seed, and that's the most economical way to grow it if you eat a lot of it. But the easier way, of course, to grow it is by buying the little plug plants, which the hard work is kind of done for you. And you can sow it straight out into your garden, and that is the way that we sell it mostly in the garden centre. Though of course there's a huge range of different seeds and people have their favourites, and the most we find the one that people love is York cabbage. Now York cabbage is a type of cabbage. It's the one with the pointy head rather than the round head, and it's what sometimes people call sweetheart cabbage because of the pointy head. Of course there's other types like Savoy cabbage, which is the curly winter cabbage. But today we'll concentrate because now is the time for York cabbage, so that's the one I'm going to talk about today.
Okay, and then just in terms of types of cabbage, are there, how many are there? Is it a wide range or wide variety?
Huge range. Even in the York cabbage, for example, Caraflex would be one variety, Hispy would be another, Greyhound is another. And to people who grow cabbage, these names would be very familiar because an awful lot of people would come in looking for what they say Greyhound cabbage. And you can grow all those types from seed. And now is the time to start the seed if you're going to do it that way. And if you start the seed now, you can look at harvesting cabbage around the end of June and into July. But of course, the one thing to remember is not to sow too many at once because they'll all come together and they'll all be ready to harvest together. So better to sow them every few weeks than sowing loads at one time. And cabbage seed should really be sown in little modular trays rather than in big seed trays, so you can get them into being good strong plants before you plant them outside. One of the reasons for growing them in these modules is that it helps to prevent root disturbance and is a deterrent against clubroot. And clubroot is a very common disease that cabbage gets. There's no chemical treatment for it, so preventing it is very important. A clubroot can come in if you buy plants from an unknown source. They can be infected, and often the bare root plants you get, people sell them in big bunches and they can bring clubroot into your garden, and once you get it into your garden it's very hard to get rid of it.
Okay, so it sounds like prevention is definitely better than cure because there isn't much of a cure, but from what you're saying.
Absolutely. And so if you buy it in compost that's clean compost and it's been grown in these modules, it's a really good way to prevent getting clubroot into your garden. Another way to prevent clubroot, of course, is by rotating your crop. So not growing cabbage in the same place every year. So a 4-year rotation. So for example, if you grow cabbage in one location this year, next year you might grow your potatoes in that, peas the following year, and maybe onions the year after that. And then on the 5th year, going back to growing cabbage in that place. So if you keep growing cabbage or any crop in the same place every year, you're much more likely to get diseases such as clubroot. So another disease that cabbage can get, or not disease, it's actually a little pest. It's a cabbage root fly, and people who grow cabbage would know about this root fly. What it does, the fly actually looks like a house fly. It lays its eggs at the base of the plant, and then when they hatch into larvae, the larvae go and eat the roots of the cabbage and cause huge damage.
Yeah, there's something about that word larvae when I hear it. It just really
it is a little bit.
Makes you kind of shudder
It's all
a bit.
part of nature, though, I guess. But you can prevent it, and you can do this in quite an ecologically friendly way. You can buy actually cabbage collars. If you've ever heard of cabbage collars.
Cabbage collars. Expand upon that, Judy.
So they're little collars that go around the base of the plant. So when the fly comes and lays its eggs, it's not laying it on the ground. It's actually laying it on the collar. Or you can make these collars even out of cardboard, but you can buy them yourself, and they're placed around the base of the cabbage plant. So it protects the plant from this fly, and it's really effective, and it's very ecologically friendly, as I'm saying. You're not spraying any nasty chemicals. Works really well. So you can either make them yourself or you can buy them. Another way to prevent the cabbage root fly, of course, is by having lots of predators in your garden. So by encouraging the birds to come in, the birds will eat these larvae, these eggs, and it's all part of the natural cycle. So a good way, always good to have predators in your garden anyway. Of course, bees and wasps and that would also be good predators. Wasps more so for eating the flies. So what else do we have to say about cabbage?
The type of soil that it likes?
Soil, yeah. The cabbage likes a really heavy, fertile soil. So, and we have a lot of that generally in this county. So it's very suitable. It also likes quite an alkaline soil. It doesn't like boggy soil or acidic soil. So growing on limestone is really good. Heavy clay soil on limestone. If you're not sure what the pH is of your garden, if you have a low pH, which is a boggy soil, you can test the pH, and you can buy a testing kit in the garden centre to check what your soil is before you start planting. It's very interesting anyway to know what your pH is. Actually, another good way of testing what your pH is, or knowing it, is if your neighbours or yourself are growing blue hydrangeas in your garden, it means you have a low pH, you have an acidic soil. If you have pink hydrangeas, then you tend to have a limey soil, because the colour of your hydrangeas is determined by the pH of your soil. So that's a fairly quick, if there is any hydrangeas around you, you will know the pH of your soil by the colour, whether they're blue or whether they're pink.
Okay, very good. Every day is a school day. And in terms of other potential threats to one's cabbage, anything else people should be watching out for? So
pigeons and also the cabbage white butterfly. So the cabbage white butterfly lays its eggs on the cabbage, which hatch out into caterpillars, and these caterpillars can devour your cabbage. The main way to avoid this is by putting an insect mesh over your cabbage to prevent the pigeons and to prevent the cabbage white butterfly from laying its eggs. Also, one thing I didn't mention, very important, cabbage likes a firm soil, a firm, compact soil, and they can get very top heavy. So you need to have them pressed well into the ground, nice, firm and compact. So healing your cabbages after you have sown your cabbage plants. Also, cauliflower, broccoli and Brussels sprouts, they're all in the cabbage family. And for most of these rules should be followed if you're planting any of these cauliflower, Brussels sprouts and broccoli, kale, and there's a few other ones as well that are in the cabbage family.
I love all of those, and I'm sure there are plenty of you out there who love all of those, so it's handy to know that one method will work for all of them. That's brilliant, Judy, thank you for that. Any questions for Judy? It's 086 1800 964 to send them in to us. But before we get to the questions, and now with the... I feel the sun shining behind me, that yellow ball in the sky that we don't see nearly enough of. What jobs have you drawn up for them for the week ahead now that they can get out there and do them? Yeah,
so a few things, and a good reminder for myself as well. Good time now to put farmyard manure or good rich compost around your roses, your shrubs, your fruit trees, all that kind of thing. A nice mulch of those will do them the world of good. Time to service your lawnmower, Alan. Now it's almost coming up to that time. Back to cutting the grass again.
But if I don't service it, then I have an excuse to not cut the grass.
Well, and I tell you, the guys who are really good at these servicing, they're always really busy. So you're not going to get it done overnight. So better get it in there, get it prepared, and have it ready for.
Okay, I will.
For people who have bird nesting boxes, make sure you clean them out now. If they were used last year, have them nice and clean for the birds to go into this year, and hopefully you might get some birds nesting in the garden, which would be really nice. And we're still not out of the danger of frost. So having some frost fleece ready to put, if your fruit trees, for example, get early blossoms, you don't want to lose your fruit. So having some frost fleece ready to throw over any of your tender plants, really good. And just have it handy, and it's not expensive. It's always a good thing to have in the shed.
Okay, brilliant stuff. Some jobs there for you should you feel like tackling them and taking them on. Let's get to the listeners' questions. And the first one says, Judy, from a listener who called us actually on 0818 400 964. And they're asking, how do I look after my amaryllis once it has flowered?
Okay, well, if you do look after amaryllis, you can keep them for many years to come. But I won't say it's complicated, but you do have to do some particular things. The first thing you do is you cut off the flower head. And when an amaryllis actually is, for people who don't know, it grows up in a big tall stem and gets this enormous flower. And it's traditionally something you have in the house at Christmas time. That's when you see them for sale mostly, but you see them other times a year too. So cut off the flower as soon as it's gone off, and then let the stem die back a little bit, because you need the plant to photosynthesize, so take in the sunlight in order for the bulb to get fed for next year. After the flower spike it begins to die off, you can cut that down, but keep the leaves on it. Keep watering it, put it in a nice cool place, sunny, and keep watering it. You can feed it, build up that bulb for next year. And then if you want it to flower for next Christmas, about 10 weeks before Christmas, you put it into a cool place, like 13 degrees, very cool, much cooler than what your kitchen or living room would be. And keep it there, stop watering it, stop feeding it, let it rest. The amaryllis needs to rest off. Have it sleep, go semi-dormant for about 3 months, and then take it out, and after that 10 weeks, and then start feeding, watering it, and you'll see it start to grow again. You'll see the stem start to come up, take off the old leaves. You should see new leaves come on it. You can replace the top 2 inches of the compost, and hopefully you will get another flower for next year. The amaryllis, then, they need to be repotted every 2 to 3 years with all fresh new compost. So I hope that's not too much to take in. It is a little bit. You do have to do a little bit to get amaryllis to flower again. Some people don't bother. They just go and buy a new one next year.
I can see why they might do that, but if you can look after your amaryllis well once you've bought it, that's preferable, and Judy's given great advice on that. An interesting one here, and I'm thinking more because of the changes in weather, plants that have been used to rain for most of 2026 might have to adapt now that it's a bit sunnier and a bit drier. Someone wondering, what are some signs that a plant is struggling due to seasonal changes?
Well, seasonal changes, if they're thinking because it has been such a wet winter, and the plant, for example, is in a pot and there's not very good drainage, then you'll see the leaves go yellow. That's a really good sign. The plant is drowning. The roots are drowning, possibly. Needs better drainage in the pot. You could add some grit. Or if your flower beds, for example, are really wet, your shrubberies, the plants you will see that they will show signs of yellowing on the leaves. So if you can at all, add extra drainage, and that's probably the most important thing. And then coming up now from 1st of March, so we're into March now, you would start feeding your plants between March and September. There's not much point before now. It's when they're starting to wake up and the sap is rising, and you can start to feed and get them going again. And as I was saying, putting a mulch down, farmyard manure, good quality compost around the base of the plants, your fruit trees, all those now, they'll need a little bit of extra nutrients for starting to grow again for this year. So I would say a leaf, if you see black spots coming on the leaf, that's often a sign of just overly wet. They're a bit unhappy after the winter. Hopefully if the damage isn't too much, they'll get new leaves and they'll start recovering.
Okay, someone listening attentively to your advice on cabbage and growing cabbage, Judy. They've, particularly with the ways to ward off the potential threats, they're wondering, can you get cabbage collars for plants? I wonder of one particular place where you might be able to get them.
Clonroad Garden Centre sells cabbage collars.
Exactly. Do.
Absolutely. And they are really useful and really good. And they're cheap. I can't remember exactly how much, but you get a good few in a pack and really handy. And you can use them year to year.
Okay, there you go.
If it's beyond your budget, you can make your own.
There you go. A cardboard mentioned earlier on by Judy, but get down to Clonroad Garden Centre. Another one here saying, what advice do you have, Judy, for someone starting a small herb garden in my kitchen?
So if you're doing it on the kitchen windowsill, for example, there's absolutely no problem at all. You can get little pots, you can get good compost. Now remember, a lot of herbs are like from the Mediterranean, so they need really good drainage. Like rosemary and thyme, they grow in really poor soil, so you don't want to be giving them really rich compost. They don't like it. You need to get some grit, mix it in with the compost, have it really free draining. You don't want to be overwatering them, really important, because what they're used to is getting a big downpour and then they're just let dry out before it won't rain again for weeks possibly. So you're not going to be giving them water every day or anything like that. Let them dry out a lot and they'll keep growing really well for you. There's other herbs like basil, coriander. They can't go outside anyway until midsummer. So if you want to try growing those, you have to really grow them inside on your windowsill. But so many different herbs, and we're getting lots of them into stock this week. Chamomile, fennel, dill, parsley. And all these can be grown inside or outside. So a lot of people would grow them in pots and keep them close to the back door. So then when they're cooking, they can run outside and get them. But absolutely. They can grow in pots. You can make a little herb bed outside if you have room for it. But for example, if you're in an apartment and you don't have a garden, no reason you can't grow them on the windowsill, for sure.
Okay, thanks for that. Someone else has been in touch on 086 1800 964 looking for advice in relation to raised beds for vegetables. And they're asking you, can fresh hen manure from hen houses be used in raised beds now? Vegetables will be sown in the coming weeks and months.
No, definitely not. Way too strong, and it'll burn the roots of any vegetables you put in there. So you'd need to compost it for 6 to 12 months before you use it. Definitely don't use fresh hen manure. You can buy chicken manure pellets that are dried and they're absolutely fine to use, or you can buy farmer manure which is sold in bags, and that would be old manure, really good for raised beds. No, you need to put that away and leave it rot down for 6 to 12 months. So this time next year you could use it.
Okay, there you go. Just sit on that for the moment. Do you need a large backyard to have a successful garden, or can small spaces work just as well? I mean, I suppose we were talking not a garden, we were talking about a kitchen windowsill for your herbs, but outside, I guess.
Absolutely. Even if it's only, growing some cut and come again lettuce. It's great to be able to go outside, cut off some leaves, have it nice and fresh, and you can just pop outside whenever you need it. Really great, even if you only have a window box. There's no reason not to grow something in your garden, if you're lucky enough to have one, even a small garden. Lots of vegetables, even what I was talking about, cabbage and kale, they can even be grown in pots. So if you haven't tried before, give it a go. It's great fun. And you can get all the bits and pieces you need in the garden centre to start off, and lots of advice on that too.
There you go. Last one for this week. Someone wondering how they can create year-round visual interest in their garden. All I can think of is grow pretty flowers, but I'm sure you've got something better than that, Judy.
That is the thing that we all, you can have a great garden in the summer and then the winter is absolutely nothing. So it's always good to remember to try and extend the season in the garden. So, in the winter you'll have the berries, and there's lovely lots of shrubs flower in the winter. Some of them have really nice scented flowers. So absolutely you can. And you can supplement then with winter flowering plants like cyclamen and pansies, violas. So you can always have your structured in your garden of your winter flowering shrubs and add into them as well. And of course there's an awful lot of shrubs flower in the spring. So a lovely time to have your shrubs in, and then in the summer you'll have all your perennials, which can flower right through onto the autumn. And don't forget, of course, your spring flowering bulbs. Everyone can see now with the daffodils, and the bluebells will be coming up. So having your bulbs in, planting them in the autumn to have them coming up in the spring. But a really good question, because it is nice to have some interest in your garden all year round and not just in the summertime.
That is for sure more likely to keep on top of then, I guess. Judy, thank you very much for being with us. And you can get down and find those packets of cabbage collars and leave them by the till. Sounds like they're going to be needed sooner rather than later.
That's right.
Judy Beck for Clonroad Garden Centre with us for this week's In the Garden.